Hi, I'm Paris, and I'm checking in with an update on my bladder retraining program. I started this a couple months back. This is because of radiation I had to my prostate for prostate cancer, and my bladder worked pretty well beforehand. The testing they did beforehand showed that it had normal capacity and I was able to empty it completely. But starting partway through the proton therapy radiation treatment, I had issues with frequent urination and not being able to hold as much in the bladder, which they said is normal because of the irritation to the bladder and the nerves down there from the daily radiation treatments. The problem is it didn't end when the radiation treatment ended, and maybe it improved a little over the couple years since I had my radiation, but it's continued to be a quality of life issue for me. I tried the medication they recommended and it didn't work for me and gave me heart palpitations, so I just lived with it until I stumbled upon an article about bladder retraining. So the issues I had to pee often, sometimes several times an hour. When I would pee, I wasn't peeing as much as a normal bladder should pee, like 400 milliliters. I was doing 100, 120 milliliters. So that, feeds into having to pee more often because your bladder can't hold as much. And then both of those fed into problems sleeping. I had to get up every hour to hour and a half during the night to pee. So I started measuring the amount that I would pee and how often I was peeing and working on, well, you can't really make yourself pee more than you have to pee, but you can not go when the bladder tells you to go. But in my case, I knew my bladder was capable of holding more. It just wasn't. I was emptying it before it got to that point. So I took several weeks, and it was a hard several weeks. It almost becomes like a full-time job because I had the urgency issues where my bladder didn't warn me I would have to go pee soon. It would just say, now, run. And you have to fight it. And I found pretty early on I was able to increase the amount that I was peeing each time. Because when I first started, it would be sometimes just 70 to 100 milliliters. And I was getting it so my bladder wasn't getting into that you have to go now when it was that empty. I was pushing it up to 120. And I, after a few weeks, actually got it to where it would hold out till about 150. But I kind of got stuck at that point. Occasionally I could manage 200, but 150, 170 right in there is, it sort of said, this is as much as we can do for you. We can't on a consistent basis manage more than this. So that was some improvement, which was good. Unfortunately, it wasn't enough improvement to reduce the number of times during the night that I have to get up to pee. So it's 4 or 5 times, sometimes more every night. So unfortunately, I wasn't able to improve my sleep with the bladder retraining, at least not yet. I'm not still actively working on it, but I may give it another go in the future because I did have one big improvement that really has helped out my quality of life issues, and that is I've gotten so the urgency now is an infrequent occurrence. Urgency is that you go right now or I'm going to go without you, and most of the time without any warning. And often it would be when I would change position, like standing up from sitting on the sofa, and it's all of a sudden go right now. Fortunately, that rarely occurs anymore. Now I get a warning, and this is how my life used to be, where as the bladder fills up, you get a sense of, oh, the bladder's getting kind of full, and oh, look, I think we may have to go soon, but you have time to plan for it. And I was missing that in my life before. It was a go right now, and I was afraid to fight it. So it has helped a lot with driving places, going places. I don't have to be so hyper-focused on where is the restroom because I know I'm going to get some notice in advance that I'm going to need it, and I can plan accordingly. So that's a great improvement. It was certainly worth doing the bladder retraining. I may revisit it, and I may actually go to a physical therapist because they're the ones who can help with that to do it properly, because I was sort of doing a DIY version of it. And physical therapists are the people who can help with this. They know the muscles down there, the pelvic floor and all of that, and can instruct you in the exercises to strengthen those. Now, whether that's going to help with the bladder capacity issue, I don't know. Is it possible the radiation did something and there's some scarring in the bladder so it can't fill back up to the capacity it used to be able to hold? Maybe that's possible too. But I won't know if I don't try. So when I have the emotional energy to do battle with my bladder again, to convince it really can get to 250, 300 milliliters capacity before it needs to be emptied, I will give that another try. But just the improvement I've seen from my own DIY version of bladder retraining, absolutely worthwhile to get rid of that sudden urgency problem I was having. Has really helped a lot. I'm hoping it's a permanent thing, but if it does come back, I'll go back and go through the training program again to combat that. And as much as I'm happy to report the improvement in this long-term side effect of the radiation, I have to report too, I've got a new side effect just started almost 2 years after the radiation finished, but they said in a very small number of people that they can experience this. I was sure I wouldn't be one of them, but now I am. I'll talk about that in another video, and I'll see you on the next review.
There are so many choices and you don't want to stress. You want your health food at home, receiving only the best. That's what we're here for, we give honest reviews. parristx.